4 bombs in London, 52 murdered, 800 injured. The worst terrorist atrocity ever on the UK mainland.
We are at war and I'm a soldier. Now you too will taste the reality of this situation.
2 months later, a suicide video statement from the leader of the bombers, Mohammed Sadiq Khan. Immediately after the London bombings, security sources and the government announced the attack had come out of the blue. The bombers were cleanskins, they said.
As I am directly responsible for protecting and avenging my Muslim brothers and sisters.
But 17 months before the London bombings, MI5 had in fact secretly recorded and photographed him. This was during an investigation into the fertiliser bomb plot codenamed Operation Crevice, which culminated with today's verdicts.
It's hard enough to live with the fact that all those people have died and 800 people have been injured, but you can deal with it if you think nobody could have stopped it. Finding out now that they had these men, or Mohammed Sadiq Khan, the leader, in their sights, and they let him go, is, I think, devastating.
The main thing is, are our intelligence services as jacked up as they can be to fight counter-terror? And the answer from all this is no way.
Now the trial is over, we're free to examine the links between Mohammed Sadiq Khan and the fertiliser bomb plotters, and to assess what MI5 knew or should have known about these links. The failure of MI5 to understand the true significance of Mohammed Sadiq Khan is a source of acute discomfort for the organisation. MI5's investigation began in Luton in March 2003. They were watching a man called Mohammed Qayyum Khan, or Q as he was known. MI5 believed he was supporting extremists linked to Al-Qaeda in the tribal-controlled areas of Pakistan. They had him under surveillance. They recorded him talking to Mohammed Sadiq Khan, though MI5 say the conversations were not about terrorism. They also observed Q meeting with the leader of the fertiliser bomb plot, Omar Khayyam. MI5's focus changed when they started following Omar Khayyam, who led them to the other fertiliser bomb plotters convicted today. In early February 2004, an electronic message was intercepted which provoked an urgent reassessment of the investigation. Khayyam was asking about the precise ratios of ingredients to make an ammonium nitrate bomb. MI5 and the police realised they were dealing with an entirely new threat.
This was a new departure for us. It marked a completely new stage in our understanding of the threat since 9/11, and it required a response on a scale that was beyond anything that had been undertaken before in British counter-terrorism.
The investigation now started to move very swiftly. On February the 20th, 2004, a woman working at Access Self-Storage in London tipped off the police about a suspicious load of fertiliser in one of the lockups. Later, MI5 secretly filmed Omar Khayyam inspecting the half-ton bag. But unknown to him, the police had broken into the lockup the night after the tip-off to swap the ammonium nitrate for an inert substance.
The great decision, of course, was how long you let it run, and that's a time when the police and the security services lose sleep, because what you want to get, ideally, is enough evidence to convict the people that you are surveilling and who are subject to your inquiries. But you try and run it as long as you possibly can to get that necessary evidence.
So the police and MI5 knew the plotters had explosives. Then their covert bugs recorded Omar Khayyam instructing the others about how to maximise the impact of an attack.
Because first of all, it has to be big here, it has to be destructive and everything here, that's one. And second, it has to be combined with something to make proper effect and terror.
They were talking about hitting utilities.
So, because you have to understand that it has to be a simultaneous thing. Like the electrics go up, so there's a blackout, then the gas lot move in and bang, yeah? Then the water goes, something goes wrong with the water. So it's a simultaneous attack.
They were actually getting to a stage when they could well inflict mass casualties and take that fertiliser, move it into a situation where it was a massive bomb, and then exploded. And so for us, it was quite simple. We moved when we did because of the public safety aspect.
When it was discovered that Khayyam and 2 others had bought air tickets to Pakistan, the authorities decided to act, fearing this was a sign of last-minute planning for an attack. Various houses were searched and 6 of the defendants were arrested on the 30th of March 2004.
I think if the plot hadn't been stopped, we have to rely upon what we know from the investigation, that which has been put forward in evidence as to what these men were thinking of doing. We know that they were looking to construct a large bomb, and then we look at the type of targets they were talking about: shopping centres, nightclubs, trains. And the only conclusion that we can draw from that, I think, is that they were intent upon mass murder.
This was the Met Police's first chance to attack Islamist terror networks targeting the UK. Operation Crevice was huge. 97 phone lines were tapped, 34,000 hours of surveillance were logged. It was a big success for the police and for MI5. But critics say it also exposed major weaknesses inside the security service. As Newsnight revealed in an exclusive story in October 2005, these concern the leader of the London bombers, Mohammed Sadiq Khan. During surveillance carried out on the fertiliser bomb plotters, MI5 trailed Sadiq Khan on at least 4 occasions, raising the question, could the London bombings, which were carried out a year later, have been stopped? The first and most significant time he was followed was in early February 2004, right at the beginning of MI5's investigation into the fertiliser plot and its leader, Omar Khayyam. MI5 followed the man we now know as Mohammed Sadiq Khan as he was driving with Omar Khayyam north up the M1. Also in the car was the second London bomber, Shihzad Tanweer. They were photographed at Toddington Services. Omar Khayyam was seen talking to Shihzad Tanweer with Mohammed Sadiq Khan on the right. Mohammed Sadiq Khan was then followed to the family house in Leeds. His car registration was checked. It came up with his wife's name. He was trailed and bugged on at least 3 other occasions. But despite this, MI5 consistently argued that Sadiq Khan was merely an unidentified male. Parliament's Intelligence and Security Committee has investigated this question. After taking evidence in secret from MI5, the committee found no reason to doubt their account about surveillance on Sadiq Khan carried out in 2004.
At the time, they were unidentified. And there was no evidence that these 2 unidentified men were involved in attack planning against this country.
But we now know MI5 did name him a year before the London bombings. Remember the car he was driving with Omar Khayyam? Well, they did further checks on the car registration and got the name Sadiq Khan. So did they mislead their own watchdog, Parliament's ISC committee? Paragraph 44 of the ISC report states, "We have been told in evidence that none of the individuals involved in the 7th of July group had been identified, that is, named and listed as potential terrorist threats prior to July." People reading the report would understand that MI5 did not know Sadiq Khan's name before the London bombings, and that has for the past year been part of MI5's defence. But note the special definition of identified. They say it means named and listed as a terrorist threat. So they can argue he wasn't really identified at all.
I mean, fiddlesticks. We can't organise our national security and intelligence apparatus and policy if people responsible for it are going to take part in the debate, splitting hairs in this way. I think it's a very unworthy thing for them to have done. Golly, they have to lie, cheat and steal on our behalf. I have no problem with that, absolutely not. But when you find some of that deviousness leaching back into our public discussion sphere, then I think you're going to ratchet down once again another whole ratchet public trust.
The fact that MI5 knew Sadiq Khan's name before the London bombings is supported by another strand of evidence. Forensic work at the bomb sites produced the name Sadiq Khan within 48 hours of the attack. Survivors were told at a private meeting that the name triggered an immediate hit on intelligence databases.
I heard from a police officer working on the London bombings that when they inputted Mohammed Sadiq Khan's details into a computer within 24 hours of the bombings, he came up as a known terrorist.
A known terrorist?
Yes.
Is that what you were told?
That's what I remember being told.
Leaving aside the question of identification, MI5 argues they were right not to follow Mohammed Sadiq Khan more closely at the time because he was on the periphery of the fertiliser bomb plot. So should they have focused on him more closely after the bomb plotters had been arrested? No, say MI5. 55 people had been in contact with Omar Khayyam. They were divided into 15 essential and 40 desirable targets. Mohammed Sadiq Khan was put into the desirable category, and that meant he wasn't investigated intensively. MI5 say this is because they had no intelligence suggesting he was part of an active plot, and they still maintain that was the correct approach.
At that particular time, there was a need to watch over 1,000 people, and you have to make decisions and prioritise those decisions. Now, sometimes you're going to get these wrong, and this is where you lose sleep at night if you're in the police service, anti-terrorism work, or in the security services.
The Himalayan foothills of Pakistan. The story moves here in the months after the Crevice arrests. MI5 was getting new information. It came from an American citizen who travelled to Pakistan in 2001, just after the 9/11 attack. That man was Mohammed Junaid Barber, who was a conspirator in the fertiliser bomb plot.
I'm willing to kill the American soldiers if they enter into Afghanistan with their ground troops. I'm willing to kill the Americans, and if the Americans use Pakistan's soil as its basis, we'll kill them here in Pakistan too.
In 2004, Junaid Barber had been captured by the Americans and was revealing details of the fertiliser bomb conspiracy to the FBI. He gave the names of many other jihadists who travelled out to Pakistan with the Crevice plotters. They'd been on a training camp here in Malakand on the northwest frontier, fired AK-47s and rocket-propelled grenades, and experimented with bombs. Today, the police released part of the video statement made by one of the fertiliser bomb plotters who was in Pakistan. He says this was when they made the decision to attack Britain.
But I knew that they wanted to get explosive training to do something in the UK.
Omar Khayyam?
Yeah.
One of the people in Malakand had trained in Afghanistan before. That was the leader of the London bombers, Mohammed Sadiq Khan, who Junaid Barber knew simply as Ibrahim. This is when MI5 missed a major opportunity. Barber had told them enough information for them to be able to identify who Ibrahim was. However, they failed to work out from those details that he was Mohammed Sadiq Khan. MI5 told us that had they worked this out, they would have categorised Mohammed Sadiq Khan as an essential target. The victims believed that had he been an essential target, the London bombings might have been stopped. However, MI5 said today that there was no guarantee that even if they'd known who Ibrahim was, they'd have made him a higher priority. Many questions remain. Why did MI5 fail to identify that Ibrahim was Mohammed Sadiq Khan? And when did they find out about him in the first place? Remember, his name first appeared when MI5 were investigating the man in Luton 2 years before the London bombings. The jury in the fertiliser bomb plot trial were told by the supergrass Junaid Barber that Q sent the leader of the London bombers to Pakistan. We wanted to ask him if this was true. We had a tip-off he was in a cafe in the centre of town.
Richard Watson, BBC Newsnight.
Mate, do you mind? What's going on? Oi, Mike. I'm not my friend. I'm a customer, yeah? Okay. No, okay. Can't let it get okay. Yeah, that's fine. We don't want to cause any problems. We don't want to arrest anyone.
We don't want to cause any problems. We don't want to cause any problems. Hang on, no problems. No.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool. No problem. No, that's it.
Okay. Hey, steady.
Everything's cool.
Steady. But what about the links between the London bombings and the fertiliser bomb plot? Did MI5 mislead Parliament and the British people?
But what we need is an independent inquiry. You've got to get some outside eyes to look at this. And you know, if all this turns out to be right, that they have actually misled a parliamentary committee. This is a here and now thing. This is their attitude today. So in other words, their ability to criticise themselves, to forensically examine mistakes they've made in the past, just isn't there.
If I presided over a department that had made serious errors that had led to multiple death and maimings, I would probably initially feel relieved that an independent party wasn't going to catalogue those errors publicly. But I don't think that's acceptable. I think this is bigger than blame, this is bigger than politics, this is bigger than people's jobs. This is simply about saving lives and restoring trust. And embarrassment and criticism is a small price to pay.